Okay, welcome everyone. We're going to go ahead and begin today's webinar. Today's webinar is Creating Value in Supply Chain Partnerships. My name's Doug Wagen with UE Systems, and we have Tim Goshert here from the Allied Reliability Group today. This webinar actually has been a sort of a long time coming. We had a webinar back in September. Doug Plucknett had put on a webinar from Allied Reliability called the relationship between asset lifecycle and reliability tools and methods. And some of the things he talked about during that webinar was how important relationships with suppliers are to help you maintain and monitor your assets. And after that webinar was over, Tim had actually said, you know what, he said a real common denominator in companies that are considered best practice and world-class in their maintenance and reliability programs is choosing and working with select suppliers as partners. It was something that he did with his tenure at Cargill. So we said, you know what, that sounds like a great topic for a webinar. So welcome everybody. It's great to have everybody logged in today. UE Systems, in our never-ending quest to deliver value to the maintenance reliability marketplace, is proud to present another monthly webinar. Real quick, a little about UE Systems. Been around for 40 years. Most of you who are returners to these webinars know we have a pretty large global footprint. We've got regional offices all over the U.S. and internationally to help support our customers out in the field. We're also at the end, anybody who's interested, you can type in the question box and we'll be happy to email you what we call an interactive information kit with lots of valuable resources for tools, for software, updates, training schedules, and things like that. So I'm not going to take a ton of Tim's time. What I'm going to do is do a brief introduction of Tim, and then I'll turn it over to him. Tim has 33 years of experience working in the food processing industry, extensive experience in plant operations, management, project engineering, construction management, and probably for the last 20 years of his career, maintenance and reliability management. In 2012, Tim retired from Cargill, which is one of the largest food and agricultural processing companies in the world. And during his tenure there, he's involved in their reliability improvement process. His role was the maintenance and reliability manager, and he held that role for, I guess, the last 20 years of his career. Tim was responsible for the company's reliability and maintenance initiatives, served as chairman of the company's reliability and maintenance steering committee, of which the steering committee members actually went around and educated Cargill's business units in the company's reliability and maintenance vision, strategies, tactics. Tim has just recently, a year ago, joined Allied Reliability Group as a principal. His role there is strategic customer accounts, account satisfaction, and business development. So I want to go ahead and welcome Tim. Tim, thanks for taking time out. I know you're a busy guy, so we sure appreciate you spending some time to educate us a little bit today on this topic. So welcome. I'm going to turn the screen over to you now.
Okay, thanks, Doug, and thanks to UE Systems for these opportunities and the opportunity to speak with everybody this morning. As Doug said, this is a little bit different webinar that you may have seen UE Systems do. It's not really technical area. It's more on strategic thought and strategic leadership. And I've been fortunate with Cargill to have experience in creating some of these supply chain partnerships, and I want to try to convey some of the thoughts that I have regarding that. Again, as Doug said, I work for Allied Reliability Group as principal, and I'm representing them today. So what I'd like to talk about is define and get a definition of these value-added relationships and thoughts on how to establish them and thoughts on how to maintain them, and then the benefits to both parties, both the customer and the supplier, that brings to that. So let's talk about definition. Value-added supply chain partnerships. So I think initially if you're interested in doing this and your company is interested in doing this, you have to have a belief that you can't do everything yourself. You have to know what your company is good at and then you have to identify areas where you need expertise from outside the company. So basically what you really have to understand is the principle of core competencies. It's extremely important. Now, there's various books on core competencies that you can read to learn about it. I was introduced to this book, Competing for the Future, by C.J. Prahalad and Gary Hamel in my work in Cargill. In fact, Cargill's corporate strategy through the last several decades is based upon some of this thought process. So, and the definition that C.K. and Gary would say of core competency really is these three things. There's three tests for identifying whether your company has a core competency. The first one they say is potential access to a wide variety of markets. Second one, provides significant contribution to customer benefit of their end product, and it needs to be difficult for competitors to imitate. So one of Cargill's core competencies, in my view, has always been their risk management services, especially in the grain, commodities, and financial areas where they have done this for about 150 years of their careers, and that gives Cargill a competitive advantage in most markets because of that core competency as an example. Another book that's very good on it, many of you may have read this book, it's a book by Jim Collins. It's called Good to Great. It's been out probably a decade now. He has a concept in that book, and it's around core competence. It's called the hedgehog principle. And this is really three things there too. He says, you know it's your hedgehog or it's your core competency if it's what you can be the best in the world at. You can make money doing it. In other words, people will pay you for it. And that I think this third one is probably the most important one, what you and your company is deeply passionate about. So showing passion, being best at it, and being able to make a living is a core competency in Jim's regard. Another initial belief is that the company must have behaviors both internally and externally that exhibit trust. So really trust in any relationship really is the focal point and the heart of a relationship. If you have a relationship, whether it's interpersonal or between companies, trust can be a multiplier, meaning it increases effectiveness and efficiency. Mistrust, however, is typically the root cause of many problems and issues. A very good book on this is by Stephen M.R. Covey, and the book's name is The Speed of Trust. I would recommend its reading. What he explains in this is that as trust increases between parties, the speed of business increases and costs decrease. Conversely, if trust decreases and there's mistrust, speed decreases and costs increase. So what he's talking about is having not a blind trust, but what he calls a smart trust in value-added supply chain partnerships. And in his book, he prints this simple matrix. So if you look at this matrix on the y-axis, it's really a propensity to trust. So you could be very suspicious, or you could be guarded, or you could have high propensity to trust. So along the x-axis is the amount of analysis that you do to give you that trust. So you can have low analysis or high analysis. What Stephen R. Covey says is that smart trust is actually quadrant 2, which is a high propensity to trust, however, have a high analysis. And you want the smart trust in these kind of relationships. Blind trust would be quadrant 1. You trust everyone, but you don't analyze their actions or their behaviors or what they're doing. No trust is low propensity and low analysis, and distrust is high analysis and low propensity to trust. To really have a win-win partnership arrangement with a supplier or a customer, you really have to be operating in the smart trust zone, as Stephen M. R. Covey states. The third initial belief is that the organization and people that are involved must believe in win-win arrangements. And that's easy to say, but as we go, there's many adversarial transaction relationships I've seen in my past in business, and believing in a win-win arrangement is a different level of thinking than a win-lose or a lose-win relationship. In a win-win relationship, probably one of the better books for explaining this is by Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He says that win-win is a frame of mind and heart that seeks mutual benefit. And so really, it's a little bit higher level thinking, and it takes a lot more work because you have to worry about not only the benefit of you or your company, but you also have to worry about the benefit of who you are dealing with in their company. So win-win is cooperative, not competitive and adversarial. But with a win-win, you really are seeking synergy where you can make 1 + 1 = 3 or more. So it's a higher level. It takes more work, takes more effort. It's harder to do, but you hope to get much better benefits from a win-win relationship. So a value-added partnership is really working on trying to cultivate a win-win relationship with multiple people in 2 different organizations. So an example of doing value-added supply chain partnerships is really Toyota. Toyota, as many know, is considered one of the best manufacturers in the world. It's known for quality products and defect rates that are significantly less than most of the competition. It's sort of invented the lean manufacturing process known today. They have an extremely engaged workforce, and they are really seen as a leader in developing value-added supply chain partners. So Jeff Liker, in his book, The Toyota Way, which I would highly recommend, he points out 14 management principles that have made Toyota successful. Number 11 is the one around value-added partnerships, and that says respect your extended network of partners and suppliers by challenging them and helping them to improve. So Toyota likes to work on finding solid partners, helping them grow, teaching them, and working together long-term for mutual benefit. So that's the definition, as I see it, of value-added partnerships and some of the things that are very, very critical to have in these type of partnerships. So how do you really begin, depending on maybe your role in an organization? What I'm going to do now is talk a little bit about some of my experiences, how I began, some of my thoughts as I reflect on them, and how to begin as one example of how to begin. I think it really starts with understanding the business that you're in. So you need to have a pretty clear understanding of what your products are, what services you have, and which ones really drive your business results. You need to look at different points of view. If you work for a large organization, you have to understand that corporate business, maybe a business unit, and if you work in the reliability field, you'd have to understand it from the reliability level. So you really need to think about all these things of what's your role in the organization, how can you learn what the marketplace is and what products you're making, and then develop a plan to implement. So I took an example. I was responsible for reliability improvement within Cargill. You know, I had some strategic areas in Cargill around reliability that we were trying to push forward. I've listed 4 out of many of them. I just listed 4 for an example. So the first one, we had to understand the health of our assets in our plants. We had to organize to do the right work, meaning are we doing the right work and are we doing it efficiently? Are craftspeople in position to perform precision work? And how do you manage the change from where you are today to a new process or a new way of thinking? So those are 4 different strategic areas that I certainly dealt with at Cargill over the years. So I've listed some tools and things that we needed to do under each area. So let's just take asset health. Well, to understand asset health of your equipment, you need to know what assets you have. You need to know how they fail. You need to know their failure modes. You need to have strategies that will mitigate failure or at least detect when you have a defect in a machine. So you need RCM tools. You need root cause tools. You need training of that. You need to understand condition-based assessment. What tools are they? Who can train you? You need to understand wear-related assessment tools, PM tools training. So you have to have all those in place to be able to do this strategic area. Some of these things you may have core competency internally. Other things you may choose to look for a supplier or a partner to help you do that work. Same thing goes with organizing the right work. You have to have work identification tools. You have to have planning tools and scheduling tools. Many of us, our organizations, partner with 1 or 2 computerized maintenance management companies, software companies, or EAM companies. So you have to understand who you're partnering with them and their capabilities. Precision work, you have to lubricate correctly. There's training for lubrication. There's proper tools for lubrication you'll need, and precision tools. There's proper alignment tools that you have to be concerned with. Do you do that training yourself? Do you have others do it? You know, how do you bring that expertise to your company, whether internally or with an outside supplier? And then last, managing change. There's leadership tools and training and change management tools that you have to use in this process. Do you do that internally with internal people? Is that what your internal people have core competency in, or do you look for an outside supplier? So these are just 4 different areas as an example where you have to make a decision. What will you do internally? Who do you need to help you externally? So in the case where you're looking for an external supplier to help you with some of those things, I think I have a few words of caution. Not all your suppliers will be candidates for this type of relationship, but many think they want to be your partner. That was my experience. So you have to decide which categories really you need to have a value-added partnership. There might be some categories where you just need a product purchase and you need it for the best price. And that's really not the kind of relationship that you need a value-added partnership for. You might find some of your strategic categories where you need a value-added partner, but there's really no choice or marginal choices exist. What do you do there? And this process of value-added partnerships is much more demanding than a simple low-price adversarial transaction-based relationship. So you have to be prepared going in it that it is more work, takes more effort. It certainly takes more interpersonal skills between various people from the 2 companies. Some questions you would ask about a supplier, do they provide strategic products and service? Can they develop it in the future? Do they think innovatively? Do they have win-win attitudes to be able to have this type of partnership? Is the supplier willing to educate themselves in your business, invest in the relationship? This is pretty easy to really gauge, especially initially. If they come to the table to talk to you and they don't know very much about what your business is, they haven't really done their homework. So you're looking for a supplier that does their homework up front. Are you going to be a significant customer to a supplier? Meaning, do you have any leverage or clout with them? And do they really care about you? Do they care about the relationship, and do they care? So you need to really think about these kind of questions and make an initial thought on these regarding your suppliers. So finding a right supplier once you pick the category where you need this value type relationship. This is one method. There's probably others. The method that I typically used in the past is that you have to educate yourself in the technology or whatever you're buying. So this takes a while. You have to educate yourself in the technical fundamentals of the area. You have to educate yourself in the market. You have to understand who the players are, what's their capabilities, what's their history, what's their stability, and it takes quite a bit of time, upfront work, to understand the marketplace and understand what you're trying to buy. So you want to be an extremely educated buyer in this area. Then what I typically did was develop some type of matrix to evaluate and find a best choice. And typically you do that with a team of educated people to do that. And then what I like to do was find the best choice, have a second, but go directly negotiate the best choice, deal with the best choice in good faith, and try to get the deal with the best choice. If that doesn't work out, you always have a backup plan with a second choice supplier, but I like to work with the best choice area first and see if you can negotiate a win-win deal. Sometimes that works. They're able to do that. Other times that doesn't work and you may have to move on. So the focus really needs to be, when you do this negotiation, is what value is received by both parties, and you have to minimize the initial purchase price of whatever service or product you are. There's many other things that are as important as the initial purchase price, and sometimes maybe more important. So once you made the choice, it's then really relationship management. So once the choice is made, really the work begins, because it requires a different attitude from people in both companies in many different roles. So it's not a transactional adversarial relationship, which many of us are used to. This is more complex, and there needs to be commitment on both parties to mature the relationship. So each party needs to be concerned about each party's health and stake in the relationship, and so it takes a lot of time to nurture, and you must think long term. And there's many touch points between employees of either company, and at these touch points you have to manage these touch points, and they can either enhance or detract from the relationship. So you can have some relationships between touch points that are going extremely well, and then you could have some that are caustic relationships that you have to manage and get in the middle of and try to smooth out that relationship. So it is very difficult. This is the most difficult part, I think, is the ongoing relationship management, so people are aligned with the common vision and we're looking at mutual benefit. So you have relationship management, some more things. You have to really have a deep understanding. You have to develop point persons at multiple levels to build trust across the organization, and what you're trying to do is build the same vision and end in mind of what is the mutual benefit within this partnership. So formal periodic meetings are best. You have to have objectives and goals. You have to have frank, candid difficult discussions, and there will be tension and disagreement, much similar to what happen in any family. So these conversations you have to have, you can't let fester, because it just will unravel the partnership. So it's really not a one-sided relationship. You have to value what your company's benefits are as well as what the other company's benefits are. Now, I painted a picture that these relationships are not easy, they're difficult, take a lot of work, and so why do it? And so I think you have to choose carefully when you do this, and it has to be very important and strategic to your business, but you get significant benefits. So as a customer, when I was at Cargill, we had several of these select supplier arrangements. UE Systems happened to be one of those select suppliers. And some of the benefits that I saw from various select supplier arrangements we had, but I'll take UE as an example here, because we believed we got top quality products and services in the industry from UE Systems. We still believe that. We had consistent delivery, we had priority support and training, we had access to the supplier owners and top leaders, and that allowed us to influence the products that came out in the future, the features, the delivery, and things like that. So we had the ability to influence what the product line was going to be, what was working well for us in the field, what wasn't working so well. And then we were able to drive innovation by foreseeing what we needed and give the supplier a pretty heads up and advantage in the field to develop those things. So we had significant customer benefits. So more customer benefits were we shared certainly in optimization of supply chain costs, like freight. With some of our large suppliers, we were able to share in maybe healthcare, accounting. We certainly streamlined AP and AR accounting in many cases to take away frustrations on both parties. We got extremely competitive pricing in the marketplace, and we felt like the customer, and as a customer, the supplier was investing in our business and a partner with it. So we had significant benefits as a customer when I was with Cargill. So when I developed this also, I asked some of our suppliers what they saw as benefits of these arrangements that we had. So from the supplier side, the benefits they saw were reduced sales and marketing effort to the end user. So there should typically be a significant reduction in the sales cycle. They, in turn, also had access to our top leadership. This allowed the supplier to obtain a vision of where the customer sees the marketplace is going, where the supplier can help the customer get that vision and create products and services for that. And it gave the supplier a significant advantage over the marketplace with that customer and helping them succeed in the future. That allowed them then to develop and spend research and development dollars on actual needs that companies want, that they're being told, not on things that they may think they need. So it also allowed the ability to change products and features and service delivery quickly. So you were able, in Cargill, in several of our supplying relationships, we were beta sites for some of the new equipment, and we knew that there might be a problem with it, there might be a bug, and we would use that product and give significant feedback back to making it work in the field directly for us. We also had immediate, as a supplier, when the customer succeeds and expands in business in new areas or they expand plants, you have immediate access to expanded business. And you get asked to the table maybe in on new plants and new different initiatives that you would not have access to if you didn't have this partnership. The other area is that the customer will sell for the supplier internal to the company and external. The customer then becomes an advocate for that supplier within the company and outside in the marketplace and makes referrals and is used in selling cycles with other companies that have similar ideas or beliefs. The supplier also then shares in various supply chain costs. Certainly we can optimize freight. I've had examples of where they got advice on health care from options from Cargill in certain areas. I had a share on, in different select supplier agreements together, making a trilateral agreement. One area was in just personnel uniforms. You can certainly streamline accounting and make it less costly there. And you can, I think the last one is that you can always expect a baseline volume that you can set margin at and baseline your business and keep the doors open even in bad times. So a supplier has multiple advantages as well as a customer, and that's what makes these benefits make this type of relationship, even though it isn't easy and very many people don't do it, can make it very beneficial for both the customer and supplier. So with that, I'm through, and if there's any questions, I would be happy to entertain them now, Doug.
Okay, thank you, Tim. That's a very insightful presentation. It's interesting because, obviously the focus of the webinar was industrially, but as you're going through this, I saw so many different things in there that just make so much sense for people in almost all facets of business. It doesn't necessarily have to just apply to the industrial marketplace. So really cool. We've got a couple of questions here, Tim. One of the questions was knowing that quality costs money, and I assume that this person means, the quality of products. Does tendering or does single source banning compromise the high quality of products and services sometimes?
Well, I think it depends on the situation first. So my lawyer instincts in me says it depends. But what I've found is that the upfront work you do in understanding the technology that you might be buying, the marketplace, and who makes what, and understanding what your requirements are and how they fit, that the quality really doesn't get compromised. Quality is sort of today in service or in a product is sort of like the admission to the game. If you don't have a quality product as a supplier, you can't succeed. So that sort of comes like an admission. I think it's a matter of you have to align what are your requirements and what is the best fit. So if you look at the marketplace clearly and you understand what that is and who brings the best product to the market, then going directly to that supplier and getting what you believe is your best choice, you don't compromise on any of those other areas just because of price or something else.
Okay. Another one here, Tim. Where does leverage fit in when you want a win-win relationship?
Well, when I was with Cargill, we had huge leverage because we are a huge company. That can be advantageous, and that can really hurt in this situation. You can, because if you have a lot of leverage because you're a huge company, you can drive smaller companies to give you deals that they can't possibly do long term. They can't afford it, they can't give you the service, and it falls apart. So leverage you have to be careful about. In adversarial relationships, it's all about leverage, in my view. It's who cares the most, who wants it the most, who has the most leverage, who has the most time. Person that doesn't have the time typically loses leverage. So it's a different thought process completely, I think, in value-added relationships where you may have leverage, but you have to temper use of the leverage because you're looking for mutual benefit, not to gain advantage over something. When I think of the word leverage, I'm always thinking about gaining advantage, at least in my mind. I'm trying to gain advantage over something, and that's sort of counterproductive in a value-added partnership and relationship.
Okay,
I hope that answered the question.
Got a couple more here, Tim. Make sure I'm keeping up with them. Where do you draw the line using your company's resources to help suppliers streamline their processes to fit your needs?
Well, that's a real good question. I don't think there's one answer. I think it depends on the relationship you have with the supplier, how strategic it is for you, how well that supplier is performing, and you want to help them get better. But there's a point that if a supplier is underperforming and it's a value-added relationship, you try to help them perform. There's a point where you can't do that forever, that you have to cut, and you have to find somebody else that can. So that's a very good question that I doubt there's a specific answer, a general answer, but in every situation there's probably an answer that is needed. So it depends on those kind of factors, I think.
Okay. Tim, can you give maybe like an average supply cost savings advantage over, say, a 10-year period of a particular product or service or something like that? Did you have something along those lines?
Well, if I don't have the data in front of me, and if I did, I couldn't probably state it because it would be Cargill data.
Okay.
So I guess the answer to the question is no, I can't give those data.
Okay. Can you elaborate on how to choose the purchasing categories on which you want to create the win-win relationship? I guess maybe prioritize them. What types of products or services would you see as, priority to creating these win-wins?
Well, I guess I could give you my experience in my role with Cargill. We had things that we knew we had to do better internally. We knew that we had to organize the work better. We had to plan and schedule the work better. We knew that we had to lubricate our equipment better. We knew we had to do precision maintenance better. They were predominantly done with our internal resources, and so we had to bring the talent, we had to train our internal talent more to do those properly. We had a pretty big effort in many of our plants to do that. We brought in outside suppliers to help us train, but typically we would do that work ourselves. In the case of condition monitoring, we had so many things to do at once to improve. We chose to outsource a lot of our condition monitoring because it was more complex than some of the other areas. We did not have the people that understood it to the level they needed to do to manage it, so we outsourced condition monitoring. We didn't make the equipment for condition monitoring, so we were looking at partnerships with suppliers that make the best equipment in whatever area.
Okay.
As an example.
Here's another question. This one's still returning to the question of leverage. Is it possible to sort of pass the leverage along to your supplier by allowing them the volume to decrease their overall costs?
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, there you're using the volume leverage so they can up their production and then bring their production costs down, and therefore hopefully both of you would share in that cost reduction. So certainly, yeah.
Okay.
And I alluded to that in one of the bullet points. I think that you can bring this, the cost down of manufacturing. So certainly you could do that. I've seen that happen.
Okay, I've got another question here, Tim. Are you able to state a savings average in a percentage over a 10-year period of time from using?
Well, we had several different relationships that I used as examples when I put this presentation together. Total benefit savings, no. But I did say that we got competitive pricing, a very aggressive competitive pricing. And I won't even state what it was, what the purchase was. I won't state if it's a product or service. But we were buying this 40% less than the marketplace. And that's just one benefit of that entire relationship. And the reason we were able to do that was because of all the other benefits we gave the supplier. And yeah, did that supplier give discounts to the marketplace? It depended on the customer they had, but we certainly were getting double the initial purchase price than anybody else in the market.
And that wasn't us, by the way, just a comment.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't UE Systems, I'm thinking.
Not for lack of trying, but it wasn't us.
No.
Hey, another question, Tim. How do you, this kind of thing is great, I think, and this question's coming from me, but how do you sometimes convince procurement? I mean, how do you work with your procurement, your purchasing departments to I guess, be able to have these win-win relationships? Because in many cases at a lot of companies, the sort of the purchasing agent or the procurement department, their job is to get into almost a transactional relationship where they get the best benefit.
Well, we worked with our corporate procurement process. We had I can't remember, a 10-step process. What I suggested fits in that. One of the areas is we had many adversarial relationships where we went out and we even used reverse auctions and things like that to buy widgets and things like that. So you have to have an agreement with the procurement area and be partners with them up front and saying, this area is strategic, this area is what we really need the best in the world at, and you have to get them to buy off and have them part of the process. If you do it in a vacuum, well, you're probably not going to get their support or their help. You want their support, you want their help, because they bring skills in the different areas too. So you have to have them involved from the beginning, and that is really in the planning it. Which areas do you need to outsource? Why? What's strategic? Look at the marketplace and get them involved. If you do that, they will support that, because they're not only being measured today by initial purchase price reduction, but they're also being measured with all the value adds. And so, at least at Cargill, we measured value adds plus purchase price reduction. And we typically got both. So they're a very important part of the process.
Okay.
And they have to support it.
I have this isn't really so much a question as it is a request. Is it possible that you could return back to the slide regarding finding the right supplier just for a second and maybe review that? I think somebody missed that little discussion.
I think so. Let me see what I can do.
Just take a second on that.
This one?
Yeah. How did you, what process, I guess, did you use?
This?
Mm-hmm.
This process is key. First of all, you had to have a strategic plan up front that states these are the areas that we think are extremely important. We need a supplier to do this. We need to have a partner in that area. Once you knew that, then you have to start with step one. You have to really educate yourself in the technology. So let's just pretend it's infrared. We have to do infrared. We want to buy an infrared camera. We want to partner with the best infrared equipment manufacturer or training company in the world. Well, first thing you need to know is, how does infrared work? What are the basic fundamentals of infrared? And you have to spend time understanding the technology, and the people on your team have to understand it. And then to escalate that, you could get a third-party expert that knows infrared inside out to help you in those areas. But you have to educate yourself on what you're buying, and then educate yourself on who the players in the marketplace are. And then once you do that, and that may take a while, it doesn't happen in a month or two, it may take a little longer than that, then you say, well, this is what we want to buy. These are the players. These are the strengths and weaknesses of all the players, and you find your best choice, or what you think is your best choice from all the research that you've done. And then you, like I said, I like to target my best choice and have a discussion with them first. If that doesn't work, go to second choice.
Okay. How often, Tim, would you recommend, and this is another question, how often would you recommend that you review and go through your select suppliers to make sure that, they're still not only meeting the needs, but they have the best mousetrap?
Well, I think you need periodic, I mentioned this, you need periodic meetings, update meetings, formal, with that supplier. Typically, we did it quarterly or every half-year basis. So as a partnership, both the customer and the supplier know what's going well and what's not going well, especially the point people in those arrangements. So you know from a relationship standpoint whether it's working or it's not. You know that. How do you, and you know that, and you solve the problems and enhance the things you're doing better by these periodic meetings where you have plans and goals, and then hopefully you implement between meetings. So by doing that process is how you make the relationship work or don't work. If it doesn't work, there's a point in time you just got to say, this isn't working, and we got to change horses. That's not good when you have to do that. Hopefully you want partnerships to last 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Now, when it comes to the best mousetrap, I think if you pick the right supplier and you're helping that supplier, they will be the market leaders. So you have to have an eye open in the marketplace of what's going on, especially if there is a fundamental step change in the market in any area. But if you pick the right supplier, they will be the market leaders and they will have the step changes. If that's not the case, then you have to go back and look at, well, geez, did I do the right did I make the right choice? Some of the supply relationships that I've been involved with have been involved for 10 to 15 years.
Okay.
As an example.
Just
I've had some that were involved for 3 years, and it didn't work, and we're on to partnership 2.
Okay, I got just a couple more questions here, Tim, and then for those of you who didn't get your questions answered live, we'll certainly get these questions to Tim, and he can answer them by email. One of them here is a comment question. We also have to look at the partner to see if it will be more costly to change because of the tribal knowledge through the relationship, right?
Yeah, that's a factor of changing. Change costs money. So you don't go into these relationships lightly. You do your homework. Your idea is to make it work for 10, 15, 20 years, right? Change costs money, and so the comment's correct.
Okay. And following right up on that, a separate question from someone else is, did you guys perform a formal supplier certification, and how often did you audit a supplier?
Yes, yes, Cargill had some of those in some products and services, and the audits were varied. That's the best answer I can give.
Okay. All right, great. Tim, thank you. For those of you who still have questions, please, you can keep typing them in. We'll go ahead and forward these questions to Tim to answer. So give him a little bit of time. I'm sure he's happy to get back to you. Just a couple of final comments I'd like to make. Again, Tim, thank you so much for spending some time with us this morning. Really informative. I'd like to encourage everybody to go ahead and wait a second before you log out. I just have a couple other things I'd like to bring up. Certainly you can come to uesystems.com for any of our other ultrasound opportunities, application information, training courses. We've got the 2013 training schedule up on the web. We've also got a lot of real nice resources for you on the web on different applications for our technology, some links to some of our strategic partners and the different technologies they offer, as well as all these webinars we do every month are available for you to go and review and look at the slides and listen to them. We record all of these, so they're all on the web. Get connected. You know, we'd love to see you get connected with us, with peers in the industry. Join our users group on LinkedIn. Follow us on Twitter. At UE_systems. Check out the Sound Advice blog. We come out with that every month with some interesting tidbits for you to take a look at. Some save the dates information. We've got another webinar coming up in March. Terry Harris, Reliable Process Solutions, Effective Lubrication Storage. Got another one in April coming up. Ricky Smith, Allied Reliability, Understanding Fracas. And, of course, we've got our conference coming up in May 6th through 10, down in beautiful Clearwater Beach. We've got a great program put together. That agenda is actually up on our website as well. So please go check out the agenda. We've got some great speakers this year. Actually, Tim is speaking this year, and I'm sure that'll be interesting, as well as a lot of people in industry, different places. They've started programs. Some of them have mature programs, and they're going to share some case studies with us and some how-to information. So it's a great opportunity to network and learn a ton about what people are doing with ultrasound. You can always reach us, info@uesystems.com. You see some telephone numbers there. Tim, I don't know if you want to share your email address, or you just want me to forward these to folks, or forward these questions to you.
You can share my email address.
Okay. I think it was on one of your slides.
It's on the intro slide, Doug. So.
Okay. Okay, cool. So we've got that. It's actually not on my intro slide. What's your email, Tim? You can just go ahead and tell everybody.
The easiest one is T Goshert, one word, at gpallied.com.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Tim. We're going to wrap it up for today. Again, thank Thanks to everybody who logged in. This is going to be available. Give it a couple of days to a week to be available up on our website. And we're looking forward to seeing everybody back next month for the next webinar with Terry Harris. Thanks again, Tim. Appreciate it.
Thank you.